Good day guys, so today we are going to be talking about data types in JavaScript. Now, what is a data type and what is the importance of a data type? For example, let's say I create a variable like you have seen here, and the name of my variable is fname, and then I store a value in my variable, let's say John as usual, and then I create another variable, let's call this variable simply x, and I store another value, let's give it 7. Now if I'm going to perform operations using these two different variables, for example, let's say I'm creating another variable called z, and then I want to do fname, which is the name of my first variable, plus x. Now you see that there's going to be an issue. Why? Because this first variable is a string while this second variable is a number, and so JavaScript has to do some things just so that these operations can be possible, or most likely it will return an error to you. So now that is the importance of data types in JavaScript, and there are a number of data types, but today we are just going to be looking at a few. We're going to look at a data type called string. Now let me go ahead and comment all this out so that it doesn't disrupt the code. A data type called string. We're going to look at a data type called number, a data type called boolean, and a data type called object. So let's look at these data types in detail. Now when you look at this John here, this is what we call a string. Whenever you store a string inside a variable, you need to let JavaScript know that we are storing a string. And how do we let JavaScript know that this data type we want to store is a string? It's using these quotation marks you can see. You can either use the single quotation mark or you can use the double quotation mark. And so now JavaScript knows that this John is a string. Now if I remove the quotation marks, you realize that there will just be issue. There will be an error when I try to perform operations because it is not recognizing this as a string. So for JavaScript to know that it's a string, I need to put it inside my quotation mark. Now this one here is called a number. Obviously this is a data type called number. Now if I put a string around this 7, sorry, not there, around my 7, then immediately now this 7 is no longer a number, but it is a string. Why? Because of these quotation marks. There's a huge difference between a number and a string, and I'm going to go into that very soon. But let's just go ahead and let me show you the other two data types before we get into that. There's another data type that is called object. Now this is quite advanced and we are going to be looking at it later, but I'm just going to show you how it is. We can say y, for example, is equal to curly brackets, let's say last name obd, right, and then first name, let's just give it the first name of Adam. Yes. So now this whole value, as you can see here, has the data type called object. Now an object basically is like something that is used to represent something else, and I'm going to explain more in detail later on. Now we are going to look at our last data type called boolean. Now boolean is simply, let's say var, let me name this one w. Boolean is simply true or false, yes or no. JavaScript will know when you are writing true or when you are writing false, and all that is basically true or false. It can only have two values. So now, like we're talking about string, I'm going to go in depth into letting you know the difference between a string and an integer, and this is how we are going to do it. I'm going to carry out some operations for you to see what happens. So I'll come here and create another variable. Let's say, let me call that one w equals to 5, right? Then I'm going to do a math operation. Let's say x, which has the value of 7, as you can see, plus there, plus w, which has the value of 5. And then I'm going to store the answer inside another variable called, let's give it a name, f. You can use any name for the variables, right? And then I'm going to alert my f so that we can see the output of what comes out. So now when we add x plus w, which has 7 in x and 5 in w, which is basically 7 plus 5, obviously our answer is going to be 12. So let's go ahead and alert that. Let me run the code. Okay, it's not running. Let me go back and check and see if there's an issue there. Okay, as you can see, this, like I told you, is not a string, so it's giving us an issue. For me to make it a string, I need to put it inside the quotation mark. Save that, make sure I save, go back and run it. And as you can see, it has given us 12. Now let's see something. If I now go ahead and put this 5 inside quotation mark, that means basically I'm turning 5 into a string, and I now put this 7 inside quotation mark. Now I'm going to still add them together, but notice that now 7 is no longer a number, it is now a string. 5 is also no longer a number, it is now a string. So that means string 7 is inside this x, and the value string 5 is inside this w. I'm going to add them together and let's see what the outcome is. Okay, I save, and then I refresh, and as you can see, now it's giving us 75 instead of 12. Why? I'm going to show you why now. Because when you add two strings together, it doesn't see it as a mathematical operation. So what this plus simply did is take 7, take 5, and join them together to become 75, right? It just took this 7, it just took this 5. Instead of adding it normally, assuming they were numbers, if we change them back to numbers, it would have added them normally and would have seen 12 as the answer. But now that we have turned it into strings, it doesn't add them together mathematically, it simply joins them together. And in programming, we have a word for that. It is called concatenation. Yeah, it is called concatenation, right? It simply joins the two of them together, and that's why 75 came up. And so you see, basically what happens is JavaScript needs to know what data type you are working with, so that it can know what operation to perform when you are asking it to do an operation on a data type. Now there is a method that allows you to know what data type you are working with. The method is called typeof, and I'm going to show you exactly how it is used. So now let's say I do type of x, for example, type of x. Let me go ahead and clean this. I do type of x, and then I store the answer inside f. So var f is equal to type of x. Now what happens is this method here will get what the type of this x is, what the data type is, and then we'll now store it in f, this variable, and alert it out. So what is type of f? Let me save that and let's check it out. String. As you can see, it has written string here as the type of x. Now when I go ahead and I remove these quotation marks, I save that. Now let's find out what the type of x is now that I've removed the quotation marks. And as you can see, now it is number. So those are the different data types in JavaScript. Like I said, here we have string, we have number, we have boolean, we have object, and you can use this method called typeof to find out what is the data type of a particular value. For example, if I do type of y, remember we said y is an object. I save that and I run, as you can see, it has given us data type as object. So basically that is data types in JavaScript programming. Those are the main data types that we use all through while we are coding in JavaScript. So we'll see you in the next lesson where we'll be talking about operators.